think you're beholden to the idea that you have to grin and go, oh, everything's great. Everything's not fucking great. You know what I mean? There's a lot of problems, but the reason you're there is because you're there because you want to make art. Because you want to make things that matter to you and to, like, I personally, I've got no ego. I've got no ego about this. I want to make work that people read and are invested in and interested in. I don't care if nobody ever knows who I am.
But and something that you yourself can be proud of.
Yeah.
And so like say, look, I did that. That's mine.
The majority of creative people who you talk to on a genuine level just want to create something and get it out there, and they don't care how it gets out there. They just want it to be out there. You know, it's like you have it in you to, you know, create and put it out there and get reactions to it. You want to provoke something. That's what the impulse is, you know. But it gets mired with all this, you know, corporatism and money men and all this sort of, you know. But it's always been that, you know. And it's how much of a trade-off. And I think now maybe it's more prevalent because, you know, it's so corporate. Like it is so corporate. It's a lot of, like, I've read interviews with creators like Bob Layton who did, you know, the Iron Man, Iron More stuff, and he's like, he went back to doing mini-series and he's like, it's a different environment altogether now. You couldn't do what I was doing in the 80s there now.
And it's like you were saying, it's all about the IP.
Yeah.
If they can make money off your idea, so if they're quiz in, they're not making money off the comic as such.
No.
It's the IP, it's the idea.
I think that's the key. It's the fact that the sales of comics have dropped so dramatically in America. Titan Books reckon they did some research, and they used to talk about the comic reader who was somebody who went into a comic shop and bought 5 or 10 books every week. They reckon there's between 160 and 170,000 people like that now, who actually go in and follow comics and buy 5 to 10 books a week. There's a lot of books being bought for investment. There's a lot of books being bought because there's 10 separate covers. There's a lot of books being bought because they have pictures of women whose clothes have fallen off mysteriously. There's a lot of that, but the old-fashioned comic reader, who Paul and I certainly were, and there's others here as well, there's only 160 to 170,000, according to Titan Books, of those people left.
It's true, and you got to bear in mind as well. I mean, there's a lot of factors for that. Like, I mean, I blame the direct market for a lot of things because, you know, it was no longer just something that you could access very readily from your corner shop. It became a very niche thing. And don't get me wrong, I love comic shops. Like, I grew up in comic shops, but I love that. But, you know, no longer was it just an easy thing for kids to pick up. And then as it became more niche, the prices went up. And as you know, so there's this variety of factors that affected it. But the biggest problem now is that you know, a kid has to pay like the guts of a fiver for a comic, whereas, you know, you can get like an app on your phone for 69p. And you know, what's going to entertain you more? You know, what's going to entertain you more, TikTok or, you know, a comic book? And you know, so it's access. You know, it's access. You know, that's why I feel like the after school stuff does well. And also, if you look at, you know, culturally speaking, like manga does well, and international stuff in France does well, but it's more of a cultural thing over there. And manga actually does very well in the Western market too. But again, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. You know what I mean? Those Tonkemon format books, nice big thick book. You know, it's about a fiver. Western comic, 22 pages, also a fiver. So, you know, like, what are you spending your money on? So, especially if anime has that, or manga has that anime audience, and they're like, oh, I really loved Naruto, and it turns out there's 20 volumes of Naruto, and they're all like a fiver each. You're gonna do that, and you're gonna go, you know, it's an easy jump. Whereas an Avengers fan goes to the shop and says, oh, I'm a really big fan of Avengers, and they're like, well, here's a million Avengers comics, and they started at fiver and then get progressively dearer as you go back into various runs. This is going around, and alright.